Hello everyone, Lego is back with a project of intermediate size here, and I want to try something a little bit different this time. Instead of jumping right into the time lapse, everything flying by at a speed of light, and I have to ramble a lot to keep up and introduce you to the whole thing, I thought why not just start off a little bit slow and before we jump into the actual project, talk about what I wanted from this and what I thought about before I actually put pen to paper, so to speak. So, what you're about to see, instead of actually seeing just now, is a project where I juggled some different scripts. I juggled GC and I juggled some Stopwatch Gallifreyan, which is a relatively new thing, certainly from 2025 at the oldest. And I wanted to recreate a scene from Alita Battle Angel where she is going up against one of her enemies in the basement of the bar. So she just jumped down into the so called underworld and is now facing off against this huge dude. And I wanted to try and make that scene as well as the dialogue the characters have. So he introduces her to this underground world, and she is rather aggressively um, responding. So I wanted that conversation in full, kind of, and I decided to do GC for most of that, and then I decided to use some stopwatch at the end. We'll get back to the scripts, but this is what you're about to see, and I am very excited about starting this project. It's going to involve some shadow work. It's going to involve GC. I love GC, and it's going to involve a new script. So all good things, really. So having said that, let's actually jump into the project itself. First off, what you're seeing is me making the raw outline of what I want. So what you're looking at is the composition basically of what I wanted to make. You'll see some quick sketches of the characters below in relative size, and then I'm trying to make a mockery of how many words I need and the relative placement of those words, trying to approximately decide how many blobs of text I need, how I am going to position those so that they flow from A to B to C to D in one continuous line. And having done that, and having done my best at actually making a semi assessment of the thing, it's now time to actually do the stuff. So I am using GC, as I said, for the vast majority, and that's what you are going to see me starting out with here. I've made a revision of this script way back in the day. It's not my script. I didn't invent this, but I did sort of adopt it a little bit, made some changes to it, made some additions, and I'm going to make full use of those additions today because this is probably the most GC anyone's ever made. The first pass here is going to be me just making the raw text and some of the modifiers, but not everything, especially not the lines. I'll do those later when I know what I want to connect them to. But for now, this is just it's mostly the finished text. Actually, there's not a lot of composition to be changed after the fact. Mostly, it's a matter of prettying it up afterwards. There's not a lot of functional edits you need to do on a second pass, so I will mostly just place it where I want it, and then it'll stay there forever, which is pretty nice actually. Not a lot of necessary re-edits later on. One of the quirks about this script, and I'll wrestle a little bit with this throughout, but one of the things that I wrestle with a bit is the fact that it's linear. You don't have any overarching circular hierarchy you need to find yourself within. You can pretty much just write every word in a linear fashion if you want, and you just go from one word to the next, always jumping to the nearest word and just reading from there. So my constraint here is that I need to snake my way through the whole conversation in such a way that it's going to be hopefully obvious where the next letter and next word is. If I fail at that, it's going to be a mess and a jungle trying to actually read the text from start to finish. So that's something I'm going to have to try my best to address. Which is also why at times I'm trying to miniaturize a little bit harder than I probably could get away with. I'm really writing myself into a corner once or twice during this whole process because I suddenly realized that, hey, I don't have the space I thought I had, and or at the same, or maybe I'm just maybe I just have to miniaturize for the sake of the reading order. So there are some things in play here, and I did briefly toy with the idea of trying to see if I needed to add extra space up top to artificially increase the amount of space I have above the characters to make everything work, but I ended up not needing it. Mostly because, and I'll frankly admit that, mostly because I forgot you could stack more consonants inside other consonants. So I didn't even make use of the stacking feature of consonants before the last third of the text. So I could have miniaturized everything a little bit more if I had just memorized or remembered that simple rule, but I did not. Now don't worry about my voice. I'm a little bit sick still, but I'm sure you can hear me just fine. So this is a prime example of the snaking I was talking about. This particular circle you just saw me finish has 5 or 6 words inside, I need those words to appear as linear text from A to B instead of in a circular fashion around the edge. Same goes for these words here. I need them to snake back and forth, helped with a few direction modifiers to get my text from the big circle on the right to the even bigger circle on the left that I'm about to make. There we are. Overall, I do think I got away with everything here. I'm not stretching the rules of this system per se. I'm just working within it on a scale that's probably never been seen before. And that always brings a couple of niche problems with it, but overall, nothing I'm really terrified about. There was a couple of instances where I did ask a fellow GC user for input in regards to if something was too crazy or not. But overall, I'm pretty confident in the composition and the readability of what I've made here. If there's going to be any issues, it's probably going to be a modifier somewhere that I forgot, because the modifiers in this system are relatively close to being letters on their own. If you just have a slight bit of misunderstanding, or if you just have a slight bit of difference in either placement or scale. So if there is any mistakes, it's probably modifier related. That's just the nature of the script. But we're about to finish the whole GC montage thing, finishing off the last word there. And now we get to look at Stopwatch, which, as I said, is one of the newer scripts. And this is the first time I'm using it. It's by the same creator as Spinner Gallifreyan, if memory serves, which would also make it the same creator as... No, wait, just Spinner, I think. I have a lot of scripts in my head by this point. Anyway, it is sort of kind of similar-ish to Timekeepers and or CC, but at the same time, it's also pretty unique. Um, it takes a long time to write a letter of this script, and that is also the primary reason I'm not too keen on. I'm not too keen on proofreading this. So I'm actually just closing my eyes and saying la 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 la. I think I got it first time. I'm not gonna proofread this. I don't have the mental energy, especially because this script is annoying in the sense that once you've written it, it takes so much more mental energy to reimagine the arbitrary borders between each letter, such that you can actually read it. It's just easier to pretend that the whole thing is flawless and no proofreading necessary, which is a bad attitude to have. But I'm sure if there is anything, someone will catch it, and I'll just be able to fix it then. I'm uh, I'm not too concerned about that. So yeah. Anyway, I'm still a bit drained of energy. I've been sick for 4 days, so I'm that's why I'm not sounding as over the top as I might usually do. Taking a bit of a step back, a little bit easier. Not not a lot of shouting at this hour. Anyway, what we got else to talk about? Not really. It's a bunch of dots, lines, and rings, and they make up the different letters in a complicated combination that changes based on the placement of a lot of the elements. So it's not a quick script to write or read by any means. I deem it best for small texts at this stage. I don't think anyone will be writing longer pieces of text with this any more than they would write long pieces of text using Time Water. Um, it's not quite a good comparison, but it's not the worst comparison ever in terms of how much mental energy you are required to invest in just sitting down and deciphering this, which is that's just the way the script works. I can't complain about that, especially not when I'm using it. It does have a very nice and distinct visual appeal, though. I will say that you're not in doubt if you're looking at something that is stopwatch Gallifreyan related. It'll be very easy to tell. Now at this stage, I've made a backup of the GC, and I'm now finalizing the script. I'm taking away all the bits and pieces that are overlapping. I'm cutting away the elements that I don't need, don't want, and I am solidifying the hierarchy of a lot of the modifiers and a lot of the vowels, especially. Now, this is going unusually fast for such a process because this is in fact the same workflow that I would use for Doctor's Cut. The difference between Doctor's Cut and this script is that size of the lines, as in the thicknesses of the lines, does not matter. So I have made the executive decision to speed everything up tremendously by just don't using any other line thicknesses throughout. So everything here is more or less the same line thickness right now, which makes these alterations very, very quick, because I'm not really cutting. Well, I am cutting, but I'm not cutting the path away. I'm just cutting away the contour, and the resulting shape is just following the contour of the piece that cut it. So I'm cheating very much here, and by the time I do get to coloring, I'll have finalized everything and it won't matter, just because I use the same line thicknesses throughout. If I didn't do that, this process would have been a nightmare to do, because every single piece that I would need to cut away would need to have its own path operations enabled, and I would have to cut away, literally cut away and delete the leftover pieces from every cutting operation, which is why usually it slows me down so much writing Doctor's Cut, and why I don't generally like the post processing for that script, at least the one I've developed. And it would be the same here, but as I said, I cheated a bit using the same line thicknesses throughout, which enabled me to just use the standard predetermined cut operations to very quickly move away the things that don't need, and the rest will be disguised when we unionize the whole thing later. So that was a tremendous nice thing. Line work is being done now. I kept it fairly simple. You can get pretty elaborate with this, the same way you can get very elaborate with Clockwork Gallifreyan. I'm gonna have to keep those two apart in the future. Clockwork and Stopwatch, they do kind of similar, have the same names. Yeah, no, not really, but I'm gonna mix them up for sure at some point in my life. Um, Having made the lines now, I'm making a few effects, not a ton, just one or two that stands out a bit, so that I can justify the last bit, which I'm teasing there with the triangles, but I'm not really doing it yet. I'll get back to that later once we colorize and unionize. But for now, this is pretty well done, I think. Um, if there are any mistakes left, now it will be up to my fellow artists to find that mistake. I'm uh, I'm staring myself blind if I do this any further. Right. So effects wise on Stopwatch Gallifreyan, not a ton to do. I don't want to mess with any of the arcs. That's because if you mess with any of the arcs, you make it even more unreadable, and it's going to be even harder to decipher. I don't really want to inflict that on anyone, so I'll keep it pretty vanilla in terms of that. I'll let the structure and the composition make the thing look cool instead of the effects. Now we come to the main characters, shall we say. I have two ideas here, and that means that I'm actually sketching out both of them. So I just start off with one, and I trace the figure by hand. Not a ton of detail here to work with. There is not really any complex movements or anything. Nothing really exciting. Made a figure. You can easily see what it is. The shadow composition is good. I'm making a little bit of a two-tone here, and I am doing a few different levels um, of tracing here, because I don't want too many details. And then at the last second, I am making the hair, and that may or may not be too much, but I will. I'll have a look as well once I compare it to the other one. So this is a different orientation. This is from the front, same-ish stance. The composition is pretty similar, but I'm not sure if I'm going to have more luck with this composition, if that's going to be more well suited for my application. So I didn't know beforehand which one would look better. So I took both, and now I'm giving the same treatment for the second iteration. I am making some two tones, not a lot of overt color, but some splashes here and there to highlight only the parts that I want. And you can see I'm deleting a lot of the stuff I don't want to just make really sure that I get the things I need. And again, I'm doing some hair, and looking at these side by side, the hair is actually so simple that I decided to redo it for one. There's not a lot of strands needed. I went a little overboard there. Simplified that a bit. Tried to put that in, and I ended up liking the first one a bit more. Now I am doing a freehand silhouette of the bad guy, and his costume here is a little bit inspired by his first appearance in the movie, so it's not completely accurate to the scene, but it's accurate to the thematic elements I'm setting up here. So I am very pleased with that. And at this point, I am just toying around with the different hues because I'm gonna have the character match the lighting of the setting. So that's a little precursor to that. Now I'm adding some lights. I don't know if I want to keep all of them yet, but it's an option that I'm keeping here for now. And now we go back to actual color of the text. So before I do the background, I need to know what contrasts I'm working on here and how those are going to fit together. So I am making up some decorations of this very particular line, and I'm hoping that it will end up resembling something very peculiarly. Anyone who's watched the movie will probably know what that is, and I'm really pleased with that little reference there, literally dangling on the right side of the screen. Now, I am finished with the texts, and I am now finalizing the text. I'm unionizing it, and I am going to color code it accordingly. I'm not quite sure yet how many different colors I want to work with or how many groups of colors, but for now I'm just unionizing the different segments. Same goes for the actual text in Stopwatch. And I ended up going with a pretty basic silver gold dichotomy thing. And now I need to do a little bit of something with the actual background. Yeah. Now I'm really pleased with one particular beam of sunlight placed in front of the hulking silhouette and actually beaming right down on Alita, which justifies the color palette she got very well. I probably couldn't have planned that better if I tried harder. So I'm very happy with that. And then I tried some different glow effects for the text on the bottom left. I sort of wanted it to have a little bit of an extra emphasis, and I'm not really sure I ended up doing anything I particularly liked, but it certainly stands out. So in that manner, I think I was successful, even though it's not a glow effect by any means that it's not fantastic, but it works. And at this point, I am pretty much done. I have my figures in the middle there having a standoff. I have my text at the top. I have my text on the bottom, and the left and the right. and I am pretty happy with that, provided there's no grievous errors that anyone catches. Apart from that, I think this is pretty well done, and I do like the intimidating sort of size difference in the middle there. Her tiny frame against this hulking, big, mysterious figure, and the exchange of words they have down there is really what's at the core of this work. So very happy with that. Thank you for watching, and I might see you at another project. Bye.